Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard. And, of course, joining me every week at this time is Mr. Neely Fuller. Let's bring him in. Mr. Fuller, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm still learning.
All right. Mr. Fuller, this will be the, I think, day is the 12th. This is 12/12/12. So we're heading into that strange day. How much of an impact does numbers have? Do these things really mean anything, Mr. Fuller?
Well, it all comes down to context, I guess. Numbers mean one thing to some people and something else to somebody else. And how, the context in which the numbers are used, the time, place, to whom the numbers apply to. Numbers are just ways of marking time, you might say, or activities. So this is determined by whomever is making the numbers or arranging the numbers. And so numbers would mean one thing in one place, and maybe the same numbers used in a different circumstance, a different context in another place would mean something altogether different in another place at the same time or at a different time. So it just, it can be very confusing, it could be very significant, and it can be very insignificant, depending on time and place and circumstance and what they are applied to. Just like any other tools, numbers are tools like words, or numbers in a way of speaking. All words, meaning they are just forms of communication.
Numbers
They're communicating ideas or deeds or whatnot. And so, it depends on a lot of factors. And people can make out of it. Sometimes they have control where they can make out of it what they want to make out of it. And then there are numbers in the universe that people are not even aware of in the form of numbers or what the significance of certain time, place, events mean and how to mark them, if they can be marked. And so who would determine that? That's an important question. Who determines when a number has value and when the number doesn't have value, and what the numbers mean and how are they arranged and who did the arranging for what ultimate purpose?
So for you, 12/12/12 doesn't have any particular significance, is what I'm trying to get at.
No, because I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know what persons to consult, since if I consulted myself, what would I be using as a criteria? And if I consulted someone else, who would that someone else be? And what would give them the authority, if you use that word, authority, to take a position on what a number means at a given time and place in regards to what? And as applies to what? And to whom? And under what circumstances? And what is it supposed to accomplish?
Right. So what you're saying is that as we look at, I mean, when numbers are played, we got another number that's coming up in a few days. Well, actually, we've got three numbers that are coming up in a few days. We've got a 1221, a 1225, and a 10113. So we got a lot of, it seems to be at the end of the year, heavy numbers games. And you say numbers is a form of communication. What do you mean?
Well, people are involved in numbers. I mean, if they're using numbers, they're trying to communicate something, some message to other people or to themselves. That would be the purpose for people using numbers. They are communicating. Numbers on a cash register or on a computer. They're telling people that this is a certain date, that this is a certain time. You can look at a clock and you can say, well, time stood still. Why? Because the clock stopped. But did time stand still? A clock is something that's made by people. But what exactly is time?
Well, that's my next question. What is time?
Yeah, what is time? Time, according to what I have in my word guide, the book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy, time is measured by deed. And what is deed? Deed is the measurement of time. I mean, they're complementary or the same thing. That's as far as I can stretch it. In other words, if you're doing something, that is time. If nothing is being done, there is no time. Or is it? You know, what does time look like standing on its own?
Mm-hmm. Should we keep time? Should we be involved in keeping birthdays, keeping time, keeping marriage anniversaries, keeping all of these things that people get hung up and caught up celebrating on this day? In fact, we've got a big holiday, as you call it, a holy day, a holiday coming up on the 25th. These numbers mean something. They seem to have power or some kind of power that words sometimes do not have. Would you agree or disagree with that, Mr. Fuller?
Absolutely. I mean, people give them power by saying that they are powerful. They'll say this is a particular day. They will say that this is the king's birthday. But then a question might be raised. Is that the king's birthday? After all, if you follow logic, everybody has one birthday. That birthday is not recycled after 365 days, you might say, if you use what they call a year, a calendar year, a modern calendar year. And that same day comes back again. Well, if the same day really came back again, the person would be born again. They would be a baby. They would be coming out of the womb again. That would be the birthday. What I have said in my textbook for victims of racism is that you're only born once. You have a birthday, then you have breath days. That first day that you're born, you have a breath day. And then you continue to have breath days until you finally have a death day.
Now, what does breath days mean? What do you mean when you use that term?
It just means you're breathing.
Means you're breathing. Okay.
Yes. Once you stop breathing, you no longer have a breath day.
Okay, so how do you measure a day, Mr. Fuller?
Well, whatever we are given or whatever a person chooses to call a day.
Well, you use the term day. So how were you measuring the term day when you used it?
I myself use it the way that it is given to me because I don't have any other frame of reference that would make sense if I start trying to communicate with people. So I look out and they say, well, we have daylight now. And so we use the 24-hour cycle of saying that is a day. But in the actual measurement of time of whatever created the universe or whomever created the universe, that might not be a day at all. Since I guess the ancient people considered day whenever they saw that the sun was rising or that it became light so that they could see. without any artificial lighting, you might say. And then when it became dark, then they said, well, this day is going. This day is disappearing, and we are going into another day. And then they set certain numbers that would apply to when that actual crossover period came. From this day is now ended, and another day has begun. Now, this is done by people. But what in the order of the universe, whatever created the universe, that may not have really applied at all.
So
it
these
may
are
be very insignificant when you
are,
consider the number of suns and the number of stars that might be out there, and what time and space and all of these things to be considered. So it's all very scientific, and it goes beyond the comprehension of, I think, of most people. Like answering the question of what would it look like if you ran out of space? In other words, what does the absence of space look like? The total absence of space. If you travel beyond what they call time and space, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's
if you were looking and trying to measure it.
Trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you this now. Another date is coming up. One is the 25th of December, which is considered something called Christmas or Christmas. Is this something that we ought to be, from the codified standpoint, celebrating?
Well, it depends on what a person's religion is, because according to the code, a person should practice whatever his or her religion is. Reason being, because people get into arguments about which religion is the correct religion. And then the arguments lead to a breakdown in communication, and then that results in bloodshed. And that's already been proven over and over again. And so it's best for just to ask people, when it comes to religion, 3 questions. What is the name of your religion? What does your religion require you to do in all of the 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, other people's religions, sex, and war? So that would just about cover everything that a person does, an individual person. What is the name of your religion? What does your religion require you to do, since it's your religion? This is, each person talking to another person about religion. What does your religion, not my religion or somebody else's religion, what does your religion require you to do in all of those 9 areas of activity? Because you're doing something all the time. So your religion requires you to do things in a certain way. Most religions have rules and regulations. So what does your religion require you to do in economics, education, entertainment? How do you entertain yourself? How do you not entertain yourself? Work, what kind of work do you do? When? Where? What is the work supposed to produce? That's labor. And then on and on and on through all of the 9 areas. And then the third question is, what does your religion require you to do when you interact with me in any of those areas of activity? So that I will always know what to expect of the person who has the religion. And then I cut it off from there. I do not argue with the person about what their celebration is supposed to be or anything like that, because that leads to conflict. And there are people who have religions who seek conflict based on their religion. They're just looking for a way to fight, a way to argue with people. Some of the most lengthy arguments that you can possibly have with anyone, the ones that go on and on and on and on, is an argument about religion. I have observed it myself, that if you want to get an argument that has no end, start arguing about religion. And people will be screaming and yelling and shouting at each other and opening books and turning the passages and whatnot, and they will do that without ever coming to a conclusion or a consensus about most of what they're talking about. And it becomes a sport enjoyed by many.
So what you're saying is that it's something that we should not do, or we should do. You're saying, but the code says according to your religion you should practice it. Now let me ask you one other thing. What does the code say about spending lots of money and buying everybody gifts and going in debt during the Christmas season?
Well, the code says, the counter-racist code says this is not logical. But people can do that if their religion requires them to do it, going back to what I'm saying, because you don't want to get into endless conflict with anyone. So therefore, you simply say, go ahead. If your religion requires you to do this, then you go ahead and do it. If that is a requirement, you must practice your religion. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. And that is the worst thing that a person can be. That's the thing that we're trying to rid the whole world of. So if you say you believe in something, you practice it to the letter. Otherwise, stop telling people that you believe in it. Because if there's any part of a person's religion that they do not practice, then they do not have that religion. You have to come to that conclusion. That's any part. They have to practice every part of every requirement of a person's religion. Otherwise, how can you call it your religion? That's not logical. So if the religion requires that you go and spend all your money and be broke and hungry the next day from having spent all your money on buying this and buying that and celebrating this and celebrating that, if your religion requires that, then you do it and suffer the consequences, if there's any consequences to be suffered. But then your religion may not require that. Then you need to examine what your religion requires, because then you won't be adhering to your religion if you're doing something that your religion didn't require.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, you have 2 definitive works. Can you name those works for us and tell us how to get them?
Yes. It's called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and these words are explained in the books themselves, but there's a subtitle to the book, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism. And racism is described as white supremacy, and that's mistreating people based on color. That's what white supremacy is. Mistreatment of people, dominating and mistreating people based on the color of the people. And people can get both the basic book and the word guide that tells you what words, and words a form of numbers, you might say, what they mean and how they're supposed to be used. You can get both of the books by typing into your computer the word tiny, TINY, .cc// and the word Fuller in capital letters. That's the word tiny, TINY, .cc, then a // and then the word Fuller, FULLER, in capital letters.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, I want you to stay right there. We've got a lot more that we're going to cover. Something happened last week, I believe it was last week, that is just truly beyond comprehension, but that's not unusual for what the victims of racism have to suffer. 137 shots were fired into a car in Cleveland, Ohio. We've got more to discuss. We're going to get into that. Stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I'm Brother Kahari. Heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This hour brought to you by the Upper Cup Coffee Company. From lattes to decaf, coffee is our culture. 79 Parsons Avenue, downtown. 220-0206 or theuppercup.com.
At TalkTainmentRadio.com, we don't just talk. We don't just entertain. We've combined talk radio with the latest in online entertainment. with the ability to listen live at no cost 24/7. We are the premier online radio station. Outperforming the digital quality of our competitors, our shows are produced in a state-of-the-art studio by the best radio professionals in the business. Hosting live shows on location at some of the area's greatest and most popular events, we give you exactly what you want to hear with talk radio that matters to you. Join us online at talktainmentradio.com, where you can listen live or play podcasts from the best shows in online talk radio. We give you a reason to come. We give you a reason to stay. talktainmentradio.com. Radio the way it should be heard.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
'Tis the season to discover the joys of being a girl with beautifully handcrafted dolls designed for destiny, because every girl has a destiny. For more information, call 614-419-8326.
Benta Employment Agency, owned by Falami Benta Hunter with over 40 years of service. Benta Employment Agency's goal is to give everyone who wants to work an equal opportunity for employment. If you are a small business owner or a national corporation, give Benta Employment Agency the opportunity to help your staffing needs. Benta Employment Agency's vision is to decrease the unemployment numbers in Ohio by securing jobs for individuals while providing quality pre-screened personnel for employers. Call them today at 614-444-4404.
Welcome to that time of year. Time to start planning your holiday shopping list. And if you have book lovers on your list, then think about a visit to the Village Bookshop on Route 161. Located in an historic old church building in Linworth, the Village Bookshop is Ohio's largest book clearinghouse outlet. Save up to 90% on the widest array of books available anywhere, with something for just about everybody on your shopping list, even yourself. The Village Bookshop, just west of Route 315 on 161. Open 7 days a week. 614-889-2674.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hey, this is Ted the Golden Voice Williams, and you're listening to TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. I'm Brother Kahari. Speaking of injustice, let's take a listen to this clip.
Cleveland Police Chief Michael McGrath and Safety Director Martin Flask questioned how police officers could have allowed a chase to go on for 25 minutes. They questioned why 13 officers fired their guns and why they fired 137 rounds into a car where no weapon was found.
All night long I'm thinking, why did this happen? But we will find out why. We will find out why. I promise you, we will find out why.
The chase started when a Cleveland police officer reported someone fired a gun outside police headquarters downtown. The chase ended in the parking lot of Heritage Middle School in East Cleveland when the man and woman's car crashed into a Cleveland police car. How that led to 137 shots being fired by Cleveland police officers, including bullets into their own police cars, isn't known.
Both cars have been towed and they will be processed.
No gun and no bullet casings were found in the man and woman's car. No bullet casings were found where the chase began downtown. No East Cleveland police officers were involved, but they are investigating because it happened in their city. And now, Chief McGrath is calling in federal investigators.
We will be reaching out to the U.S. Attorney's Office and also the FBI to ask the assistance recommendations from the Civil Rights Division. Why are we doing that? Because it's the right thing to do.
If individuals are found to have acted outside the box, there will be consequences for their actions.
News Channel 5 photographer Mike Vilhamer was riding along with a Cleveland police officer for another story when the chase started. Listen to the police radio traffic during the chase when an officer says,
Now the pop team is here, another gun search.
That was one of the statements that was said. However, there were a couple other statements that we're looking into that also may have evidence that there was a gun.
Mr. Fuller, I don't know if you're aware of the case in Cleveland, or had you had an opportunity to hear about it?
No, I haven't heard about it.
Okay. Well, what happened, there were allegedly, well, you heard what they said. And 137 bullets were fired into a car of unarmed suspects, an African-American male and an African-American female. Allegedly, it said that I believe the male had 24 bullets in him, and the woman had 24 bullets, and the male had 23 bullets. And 137 shots were fired by 13 police officers. 12 were white. What needs to be said about that, Mr. Fuller?
It's to be expected. And black people have to learn to expect that over and over and over and over again. In a system of white supremacy, you have to first understand that that's the system that you're in. Now, you can expect instant death in almost any circumstance in the system of white supremacy. You should expect that. If you don't expect that, you're getting blindsided. You're shortchanging yourself in your intelligence. You're shortchanging yourself in your intelligence about the world that you're in. You're on a battlefield, a total battlefield. That's what you're in. Any place where you happen to be, if you're classified as non-white, you are on a battlefield, period. And on a battlefield, shots are fired. There's cannon fire. There's flame. There's all sorts of harmful things going on a battlefield. If you don't see yourself as existing on a battlefield, then you have misread your environment. That should be lesson 1 in the first grade of any school in the system of racism. We're in a system of racism that takes in all of the areas of activity for anybody who's classified as non-white anywhere on the planet, any time of day. You must make that assumption. You're not in some kind of paradise. You're on a battlefield. Expect to die instantly, anywhere at any time, period, because that's what the system is designed to do. Cause misery and death. And if you think that it's a game that you can get in a car and call yourself running from it, you're asking for more of the same of what is inevitable that you will get. This has to be understood. This is not a playground. That should be cemented in every person's head who's classified as black and or non-white.
Do you think people understand this, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I'm trying to get them to do it because it's going to continue to happen no matter how many demonstrations I had, how many investigations I had, how many of this. You can go and look at old newspapers going back to the 1910 or whenever. Just pick them up and just finger through them. Any old newspaper, and you'll see. Suspect killed while fleeing. Suspect killed while handcuffed. Suspect killed while being questioned. Suspect killed while running, fleeing. Same story, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But it seems that people don't learn.
So
they don't learn from one day to the next.
What can we do, Mr. Fuller, about 137 shots fired in Cleveland, killing 2 unarmed, a male, black male, and a black female? Black male has 23 bullets in his body as a result. The black female has 24 bullets in her body as a result. What can be done?
Well, what I understand, the first thing I understand is that the people were fleeing, correct?
That appears to be the case.
That's the first mistake.
I understand.
Once you take off running, expect to be killed.
Okay,
that's number one.
But what can we do about
for whatever
it, Mr.
reason?
Fuller?
For whatever reason you're running, once you take off running and somebody's fleeing, you're fleeing from someone who is chasing you, who is supposed to be a law enforcement officer, and you're fleeing that law enforcement officer. Whether you're innocent or guilty, once you make the decision that you are going to run, expect to die within a few minutes.
Now,
that's number one. You should expect to die. Within a very few minutes. That you got to have that cemented in your head. Once you make that choice, I'm taking off. They don't have any reason to be doing what they are doing, so I'm taking off. Or even if they have a reason to be doing, expect to die.
Maybe they thought they were going to die.
Because chances are you're going to die.
Okay, now
you have to have that in your mind.
Okay, now what can we do about this?
That's
what
the
can
first
be
thing
done?
You have to do. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to realize that you're in. If say you, for one thing, someone, a white person carrying a gun, you have to suspect that white person may not be now, but that white person may be a white supremacist. If that person is indeed a white supremacist, you can expect to die. Very simple. If they're chasing you, carrying a gun, for whatever reason, and the person is white, and you're non-white in a system of white supremacy, expect to get killed. Very simple. Why? Because the record shows that in too many cases you do get killed. The record shows that. The person may not be a white supremacist, okay? But you don't know that.
Mr. Fuller,
but if you take off running, you can expect for the next thing that you hear is not stop, 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 stop. The next thing that you're going to hear is pop, 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 because you're running from a person who may be, just maybe, maybe not, but maybe a person who believes in racism.
Let's take a listen
which means you're going to be dead.
Right. Let's take a listen to Blaine Griffin, Director of Community Relations in Cleveland, Ohio. Let's see how they reacted to this situation.
From the Fickler family, and then once we do that, then we'll take questions from the broader community. So any family members, if you could line up right here. Any family members could line up right here. If you don't want to come to the mic, please write down your questions, give them to Piesha. We'll take those questions, put them in a document, and make sure that we try to get back in touch with you.
Now, I believe that in this meeting, Mr. Fuller, the mayor of Cleveland is also there. I see him. So let's listen to what some of the statements are from the people in Cleveland, Ohio, regarding this.
Please state who your family member was, okay?
I'm Michelle Russell, and my family member was Timothy Ray Russell. My question actually is similar to the gentleman's question over here as to what.
Now, she's the sister, Mr. Fuller, of the one that was killed.
I heard reports that it was called off twice, and there were some kind of statements made that the officers were on some kind of different radio wave and didn't hear it. And my question is, why could they hear the initial report to go and pursue the chase? They were all on the same radio wave at that point, but then when the call came in to stop, nobody seemed to be able to hear that, and I just have a question.
Those who did not participate in a way that created culpability to them did not get railroaded from their side. So there is a sense of a need for fairness, honesty, openness, transparency. That's why we're here.
Now, that's the mayor speaking, Mr. Fuller.
And I, as you know, we've worked together on many things, sometimes on the other side of the same issue. Yes, sir. But we've always respected each other because we do believe that we're trying to get you right.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, that was one of the, here's another, one more. We'll listen to one more.
As far as the officers being questioned and their time to get together and to confirm talk about what they're going to say. What did you do? Well, when did you do this? Well, what are you going to say? We're concerned about that lag time of the interview process with the officers and them having time to get a story together, to try to fix it up, to, maybe try to excuse what they did, which is no excuse, but that it's a lag time. And we're concerned about that lag time. I know you're saying that it's a delicate situation and you have to do this and you have to do that. It's delicate for us too because our family members were murdered. So we're concerned that, they have all this time to get together. You can't watch them 24 hours a day. They have this time where they can get together and get their stories together. It seems to me that it will only make sense that someone would immediately start questioning them after this incident.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, you've heard some of the community reaction, the black folk reaction. We've seen this before. Is this the most effective? Well, okay. Is this a way that you would go about it if it had been relatives of yours? What would you do, Mr. Fuller, that's different from what was done there, or would you do the same thing? Hold a community forum where people come out and ask the mayor questions, the police chief, the police commissioner, and all those folks questions trying to get justice. How would you go about it, Mr. Fuller?
Well, what they're doing is what they're doing. I can't criticize that. I'm in no position. I'm not qualified to criticize what they're doing. But I'm saying what the expectation should be is even while they are talking, cars most likely are flashing by 2 blocks away, chasing another car with the same event about to unfold. I'm saying we have to get in the habit of expecting this.
Mr.
Because
Fuller,
the record shows that it's going to happen again and again and again and again.
Right.
As long as you have the system of racism in place, it goes with the territory. So what you try to do as an individual person is avoid every situation where you become the target of that type of scenario. Because most likely, if you're in that situation, you are going to die. D-I-E. Understand that. Get that cemented in your head at age 5, at age 10, that you're not in a civilization. You're in a system of racism. You're on a battlefield, a perpetual battlefield. On a battlefield, you expect the ugly things to happen. You're not in utopia. You have to get this in your head. Expect to be killed anywhere, at any time, under these conditions, as long as these conditions exist, and they have existed from day one.
Okay, let me bring in a caller here. Caller, you're on the air. This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, it is an honor to speak with you, Mr. Fuller. I just purchased your book, and I find you very interesting. And I am learning from you. What I would like to say about this, I would like to actually ask a question. Now, how much, when you say that racism is a business, like a mafia, okay, my question would be, how much, like shooting and drawing attention to the business would be considered bad?
Can you break that down a little bit more?
Okay, like in the mafia, you don't really want to draw a lot of attention to yourself. You don't like the white supremacists. They are like a mafia, okay? They don't really want to draw a lot of attention to themselves. That is probably why they're going to follow this case out, and they're going to make sure somebody pays some sort of way.
You mean the 137 shots fired in Cleveland?
Exactly. To me personally, that was an overkill. And in the business, like a mafia business of white supremacy, I feel personally, I'm not going to go by my feelings because feelings really doesn't matter here. Mm-hmm. Intellectually and logically, the question that I would have to ask is how much how much shooting, how much killing, the 100 and whatever shots.
137.
Their business. It's bad for their business.
Yeah.
Is that bad for their business?
That is a very interesting question. I tell you what, I'm going to hold Mr. Fuller right there. Can you stay with us? because I'm going to
Yes.
give him a chance to answer that question. It is a very, very powerful question. Is this bad for business? 137 shots fired in Cleveland, Ohio. Stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
This hour brought to you by the Upper Cup Coffee Company. From lattes to decaf, coffee is our culture. 79 Parsons Avenue, downtown. 220-0206 or theuppercup.com.
At TalkTainmentRadio.com, we don't just talk, we don't just entertain. We've combined talk radio with the latest in online entertainment, with the ability to listen live at no cost 24/7. We are the premier online radio station. Outperforming the digital quality of our competitors, our shows are produced in a state-of-the-art studio by the best radio professionals in the business. Hosting live shows on location at some of the area's greatest and most popular events, we give you exactly what you want to hear with talk radio that matters to you. Join us online at TalkTainmentRadio.com, where you can listen live or play podcasts from the best shows in online talk radio. We give you a reason to come. We give you a reason to stay. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
'Tis the season to discover the joys of being a girl with beautifully handcrafted dolls designed for destiny, because every girl has a destiny. For more information, call 614-419-8326.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm Tammy. I got your lucky number, heard exclusively on Conversate in the AM at 11 a.m. Mondays and Fridays. Make sure you tune in for your lucky number. Punch in TalkTainmentRadio.com and click on Listen Live and listen for your lucky number.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
I mean, I know the president of the union got up there and spoke and said he think that his officers did a great job. I don't see how he can word his mouth to even say anything like that. Okay, I don't see how he can fix his mouth and say, your kid, your child, or your son could have been in that car. Put yourself in my shoes. Okay, they didn't do a good job. And a lot of people say, yeah, is this a black and white thing? To tell you the truth, yes, it is.
All right. Is this a black and white thing? To tell you the truth, yes, it is. Speaking of which, you can join me for Conversate in the AM. We've started a new time for Conversate in the AM. I'm hosting it. It will be live from 8 to 10 in the morning, Monday through Friday. Conversate in the AM with me, Kahari, 8 to 10 live. And then we will deal with a lot of these issues there. And in addition, we, of course, have had Mr. Fuller on. We'll have him on as a frequent guest on Conversate in the AM also. Now, Mr. Fuller, she raised a very interesting question, a very interesting point. This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. She said the firing of 137 shots in Cleveland, killing 2 black people. One female had 24, male and female. One had 24 bullets in her body. The other one had 23 bullets. They had no weapons. They did not fire back. And yet there were 13 police officers, 12 of whom were white, and they just opened fire. And in fact, they got out of hand shooting. They even shot up their own car, one of their own cars. So it just went crazy. She's asking a very interesting question. Is this 137 shots fired in a clearly, just like the brother said, it was a black and white issue. It's clear that that's what it was. Is this bad for the business of white supremacy? It's a very good question. Mr. Fuller.
No, because they are doing it within a context. And the context is it happens every now and then. I mean, between these incidents, they have already calculated that they will have an incident like this just, say, every 2 weeks or so, or maybe every 3 or 4 months. I'd say on average of in one particular place, it will probably happen maybe once or twice a year in one city, something of that magnitude. Once or twice a year, maybe 4 times a year be max, because after 4 times a year, it'll be such a huge outcry. But if they can do it on the average of maybe twice a year in a large city, then they know that the repercussions will not be very great. They might even stretch it to 3 times a year. And then they will go through the usual routine. Well, we're going to look into this, and this is horrible. And there must be a monumental misunderstanding, and we must all work together, and we're all in this together, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to have a special commission that's coming in from the legislature that's going to be appointed, to really look into these things, because it is happening too frequently, and the mayor has spoken, and the council people have spoken, and the people of all parties and all political and religious persuasions, and we have Reverend so-and-so here who's going to work with us, we're going to work with the community centers, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and that's all a part of the scenario. But 6 months later, it's going to happen again. Why? Because it's supposed to happen again. You have to understand that. So each individual person has to make sure that they do whatever he or she can to say, I'm not going to be the target of this routine, because that is a routine. It is a set worldwide routine, just like the whole so-called Middle East is set up to be a battlefield. It's set up to be a battlefield. That's the intention of it. That's, things are invented in the system of white supremacy to do what they do. So this is going to continue, no matter how many demonstrations. Thousands of people can come out and demonstrate, and it will quiet down. And as soon as it quiets down, and everybody says, well, it's all done now, then it's going to happen again. So you might as well just keep the same signs that you had before and come out in the street with the same signs, because it's going to happen again. That's a guarantee. Why? Because you're in a system that's set up for it to happen.
Let me get
change the system.
Let me get a response from the caller on that. Caller, based on what you heard, let me hear your response.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, it's an honor to speak with you. I just acquired your books, and I am always learning. Now, as far as the mafia thing goes, and that this is bad for their business, I agree. This is a set-up thing, and they do, and the right racist supremacists, they do this, and they set this up, and they already have the solutions already in place for it. I can agree with that. But my question now would be, would this be done for the benefit of what you would call showcasing?
Mr. Fuller?
What should be? The question is, what should be done for?
No. Would this be done, if I'm correct in how I'm interpreting her question, would this be done for the benefit of showcasing? Am I correct, caller?
Yes, sir.
Yes, for the benefit of showcasing, Mr. Fuller.
Oh, sure. See, it's a scenario, and we have seen the scenario. You can pick up, like I said before, pick up old newspapers going back to the 20s and whatnot. It's usually called police brutality. That's usually the overall banner that the article will appear in thousands of newspapers over and over and over again. A police shooting, Negro killed, colored man, colored woman killed, fleeing a robbery, scene or whatever. I mean, over and over and over again. It's a worldwide, set piece for the system of white supremacy. And everybody becomes a part of the scenario. And that's why I say you might as well just keep your old signs. Just set them over in the corner, because it's going to happen again. And so you wake up in the morning and you hear there was another shooting last night. So you say, okay, well, this happened again, so I'm going down in the basement or wherever and get my sign, and I'm going down and demonstrate with the rest of the people, and we're going to poke holes in the air with our fingers, as we usually do, like they said in the movie Shane. And everybody's going to be out there, and it becomes almost a festivity. Break out the candles, break out the teddy bears, and hang them on the fence near the scene and all like that, and all of the RIP graffiti, bring that out, and go through the same scenario, and then 6 weeks later, it happens again on the other side of town, or in the next town. Usually it happens in the next town, the town that's 60 miles up the road. And same thing over and over again. So now, what do? You do the same thing you do when you're on a battlefield, because that's where you are. You'll always have your antenna up that today I might die. And you definitely don't do anything to aggravate it, like thinking that there's some kind of game that you can jump in your car and take off. Now, we see this over and over again on some of the television shows. Oh, that's tailor-made to get yourself killed. And we should have learned that by now. First thing you do is don't run. In a car or on foot, you're asking for death. You are asking for death. Now, it may not happen. In most cases, it doesn't. But in too many cases, it does. And that's why we're having this conversation this morning.
Mr. Fuller, I'm going to return.
The first order of business is you don't run.
Right.
Yes, when you are told to stop, you stop. Now, you say you might get shot anyway. Well, you get shot with your hands in the air. That's the best you can do when you are in enemy territory anyway. You're a captured soldier. You look at it that way.
Mr. Fuller, I need to want to return to a question that I asked you, and that is, if these were your relatives and you were in that situation from a codified standpoint, what would you do? I'm talking about after the shots have been fired, the people have been killed. What do you say and what do you do, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I wouldn't be indignant about it because I would expect it. I would just simply say what happened, and after they tell me what happened, that the hundreds of shots were fired, and that my relative was driving the car, trying to flee, I would say, okay, go through the usual routine, go through the investigation, have the usual demonstration, but I'm not really incensed, because I expect this. I expect this. I'm in a war. I'm in a world that's dominated by people who say that I am the enemy. People kill their enemies. I have been labeled as an enemy from birth by color. I have that label. I'm in a system of white supremacy. White supremacy hasn't gone away. So I expect to be killed in the name of racism. I expect that. If I don't expect that, then I'm not what you might call basically educated. I don't have a complete education. I might know a lot of things, but my education is not complete in that particular sphere. Of course, nobody's education is complete because the world is very variable. There are millions of things we don't know, but there are some things we do know from experience, and that is that racism exists. And in a racist system, if it's the dominant system, and it is, I'm saying that it is, you can expect to be killed in the name of racism, anytime, any place. And the lady mentioned something about whether or not it's bad for business. Well, it would definitely be bad for business, because then you would accent these things as being unusual if black people weren't slaughtering each other. See, now that's the umbrella in which this racist mafiosa operates, because they say, hey, it's in an environment where every now and then you have one or two black people who are killed by suspected white supremacists, maybe, but then you have a whole wagon load or wagon loads or whole train loads or ship loads of black people who butcher each other each and every day and who enjoy it. So what's the hoopla about? Because the basic message is a black life is worth nothing, and every black person believes it. And every black person, particularly young black males, believe that every black person looks better dead if they tell the truth.
Well,
they love funerals. Nothing like a black funeral. Everybody turns out. Candles, teddy bears, yellow tape fluttering in the wind. That's our neighborhood. Oh boy, this is fun.
Well, Mr. Fuller, we've got about 40 seconds left. Any closing thoughts on this?
Yes, we need to concentrate on becoming the type of people that we should have been in the first place before anybody invented anything called racism, and that is a universal people, which means equality people who have quality relationships, people who don't even interact with each other unless they're doing something constructive. That's really important. That's the beginning of the solution to all of this, that black people, white people, all people should interact with each other and contact each other only for constructive purposes. That will do a whole lot right there.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, thank you. We appreciate you. And we will, this is the last live show we will do. Mr. Fuller will be back live again, I believe, January the 11th. So, Mr. Fuller, have a happy holiday.
Thank you.
All right.